लगा दिया? Yeah, all of you, the new students, please be careful. Don't get wet in this rain. These are times, you can easily catch infection, flu. I'm hearing lot of cases there. So be a bit careful there, all of you. And if it rains heavily, we generally also give you the online link for that day. Okay, ताकि आपको भीगना ना पड़े. So we have done this couple of times. So be careful when you're coming to class. Okay, so we start now. क्या हो गया? बैठने का जगह नहीं है तो वो बैग की जरूरत नहीं है, साइड कर दो. I'll write that, don't worry. Okay, start off now. So discussing the ocean bottom relief, I started with, yeah, all of you. Yeah, hello. ठीक है रिया, I'll explain that again. About the passive margins, आपको दोबारा बता देंगे. Hi Deepak Saini, hello, hi. Okay, so we started with some tectonic concepts. These concepts are linked to geomorphology. So one is I differentiated the ocean crust versus the continental crust. ये दो अलग type के rocks हैं. They have a different composition. They have different properties. The ocean crust is basalt. The ocean crust is thinner. It is denser. It is basic, and it is more fundamental. What I mean by fundamental is that continents जो हैं ये ocean से ही बने हैं ultimately. Some process we have called that as crustal differentiation. Some mechanisms by which the rocks transform, the minerals separate out. Okay, so from the oceans the continents have been made. So I believe no problem with this list. Okay, continents do not extend as oceans. Oceans are not the deep depressions of continents. ये बहुत अलग systems हैं. That's one discussion. Then we talked about that the ocean floor में whatever landforms we have, it is guided by the sea floor spreading process and guided by plate collision process. जिसमें कि we have talked about something called as subduction. Okay, so the two key processes, and we said these are examples of, I used a phrase, plate interactions. So the lithosphere we have, the lithosphere plates are blocks, okay, which have this property of floating over the asthenosphere, and when they are floating, these blocks can collide, these blocks can break and they can move apart. So it is this interaction that creates the landform that we have. When the ocean crust breaks and moves apart, we have called that as sea floor spreading. And when the ocean floors collide, the ocean floor, one of them, अगर दोनों ocean हैं, तो one of them will go down. If one is ocean, another is continent, even then the ocean will go inside. Because ocean, remember, I said oceans are denser, continents are lighter, continents can float, continents are thicker. Imagine a balloon, it's thicker but halka hai. Okay, so oceans always go down. So while discussing this, we talked about the ocean floor divergence, and this divergence creates more It creates basalt volcanisms. It has an axial rift valley. There are transform faults, and I said this is where the oceans are being created. Ocean crust यहाँ बन रहा है. That's why at the more the rocks are younger rocks. Younger rocks compared to the rocks. So if this is a continent and this is an ocean floor, thinner one, there is some volcanic eruption creating more. You further away ocean and then again continent. I'm drawing a cross section. ये पूरा ocean floor, basalt floor, thin floor. So in this, okay, along the more, these are new rocks, and away from more, these are older rocks. These are older rocks. यहाँ बन रहा है और बन के then the rocks will spread out. So there are some gaps in the concepts I can understand. I'll discuss those in detail when I move towards geomorphology for some of you. Others you have done it, so you understand it better. Okay. So ये आपको 5 feature जानना होगा. There is a more. More is a volcanic accumulation. More is a long linear ridge system. और बीच में एक crack है. Along the center we call that as the axial rift valley. And this more we talked about basalt volcanoes, and they also are cut. Okay, it's not a continuous one. ऐसे किसी ने काट भी दिया है. ठीक है. So yeah, Ajay Pal, ocean interactions, collision, divergence. Ajay Pal will not enter those details of tectonics right now. I know what you're looking for. Okay, but those details have to wait. अभी आपको बस यही terms जानना है, and we will ultimately grow on this. So I have a certain diagrams here taken from the net. You also can look. You can see the continents are thicker. Okay, and the oceans दोनों अलग color भी है. ये orangish and this is the grayish. So the oceans are different. Oceans are thinner. इसके नीचे एक और layer है upper mantle का, and the whole thing is called as the lithosphere. Yes. तो यहाँ से यहाँ तक lithosphere है. यहाँ से यहाँ तक lithosphere. Lithosphere has this part called as crust, and this also is the crust. Okay, and the crust continent वाला है, ये ocean है, and this layer here, this is the upper part of upper mantle. Okay, so this and this together is the continental lithosphere. This and this together is the ocean lithosphere, and I said average 100 kilometer तक होता है. And under that we have one more layer. This is the asthenosphere. ठीक है, diagram is fine all of you. Okay, ये सब आपको मिल जाएगा. If you go back and check your internet, ये सब आपको उसमें मिल जाएगा. Whatever diagrams you need, but I put them together here. So that's one diagram. Now, if you can, so no, not this one. They have jumbled up everything. Okay, कोई नहीं, this one. So this you can see the ocean crust. This is the ocean crust part, and this is the ocean crust part. Okay, and we have some lava coming from interiors. It comes out. ये जो elevation है, this is the more. This says more here. Okay, so continents are thicker, oceans are thinner, and this place where we have eruption, this is the central more system. ठीक है, more system. Then you can appreciate this. Okay, a bit more obvious here. So ये पूरा more जो है, this is the more here, and this is the Rift Valley. Can you all imagine the Rift Valley here? Okay, this is the Rift Valley. Rift Valley, and this Rift Valley, I made you write one thing. It's an example of what we call as normal fault. लिखा है आप लोगों ने, right? Yeah. So normal fault happens when, see, any body will break. Okay, will break if you squash it, or you pull and you stretch it. If you squash it, ये compressive force है. Compressive force अगर टूटता है, we call that crack as reverse fault. If there's pulling going on, tensile force and it breaks. We call that as normal fault. Okay, so यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है? The ocean floor is getting pulled apart. ऐसे खिंच, ऐसे I'm using the term sea floor spreading. So when something is getting pulled apart, okay, this is called as tensile force. और फिर जो crack होगा is called as a normal fault. So normal fault are always because of stretching. They're always because of tensile forces. So sea floor spreading is the instance where the ocean is getting pulled, stretched, and then it is breaking. So the Rift Valley is an example of a normal fault, okay, and is linked to, I said, sea floor spreading process. More system will have basalt. Yes, absolutely, Gautam. ये पूरा जो है, whatever lava we have here, this lava accumulations are all basalt. Ocean floor is basalt in composition, unlike the continents which have granite, andesite, diorite, and the rest. Okay, so I think this is understandable. Now, I wanted to show you an example of a transform fault. The way ridge system है, ridge system should have been straight like this, but ये दिखाई दे रहा है cut, where the ridge has got displaced. The ridge is not a continuous one. So this is one block, एक block है ऐसे, and the other block is here, and another block is here. So it's not a continuous one, it has got displaced. So if you look at a diagram on this, it will look something like this. ठीक है, आपको ये दिखा देते हैं. You can all see this. Okay, so this is the axial Rift Valley. और ये जो cuts है ना, ये वाले, these are the examples of transform faults. That's why in a diagram, when you are representing a more का representation is something like this. So they show the Rift Valley transform fault, Rift Valley transform fault, Rift Valley transform fault. ये symbol है of a more system. भैया ऐसे कुछ दिख रहा है यहाँ पर. Okay, the Rift Valley and a cut, Rift Valley and a cut again. So these cuts are across. They are transformed. They are transfers. ये across ऐसे कटा होगा. Okay, so that's the more. And if you look at this map, so this shows it's not very clear, but ठीक है, it's okay for our consumption at least now. Okay, maybe smaller. This is the entire length of the Moor system. You can see ये पूरा Pacific Moor है. This is the Pacific Moor like this. Okay, it goes into the Indian Ocean. This is the Indian Ocean. This system here, it goes into the Atlantic Ocean. Again comes in joints like this. ये पूरा system is the Moor system. The Pacific Ocean, I said, ये southeast part में बताया था आपको मैंने. In Atlantic Ocean is almost central, north-south, and Indian Ocean also almost central, north-south. The Moors, and they are one of the most extensive landforms on the earth, stretching 60-70,000 kilometers across all the oceans. In fact, we have one Moor system even in the Arctic Ocean. This is called as Lomonosov Ridge. ठीक है, बताते हैं उसके बाद में. But just know all oceans have these Moor systems. See, Moor systems is where the oceans are breaking and moving apart. The Moor system is where the oceans are getting created. अगर Moor बहुत active होगा, the ocean can start becoming larger. Okay, so there was a time when Africa and Americas ये पास में थे. They were joined together. This crack happens and now they are moving apart. The ocean is growing and the continents are moving apart. Okay, the Moor system is where the crust is being created. In some books they write the Moor boundaries as constructive boundaries. वहाँ कुछ बन रहा है. The oceans are being created. ठीक है? How the Rift Valley is formed on the ocean floor. प्रियांशु, how वाला part तो अभी hold करो. अभी आप बस जानो कि ocean floor में एक Moor है. The ocean floor has certain eruptions and volcanic activity. ठीक है? How part is tectonics. Now that's different topic entirely. Okay, so we hold the Y part for some time. So that's about the MOR system. Now let me discuss or at least show you the trenches part. I think all is fine. Okay, so this is the ocean floor, the ocean crust, lithosphere, and here you can see it's going down like this. Okay, so this gap is what we called as the trench. In this case, it is ocean here and continent here. This is OC type of interaction. And OC interaction mein, the ocean is going down, okay, something like this. Here trench hai, and this places will have, because it's going down, it's melting here. Yahan melt ho raha hai. It's melting here, okay, and this lava will rise up and create volcanoes here. So I think I mentioned this to you, that the trenches locations are locations of intense volcanic activity. The locations of very powerful type of earthquakes. Okay? This is example of OO type of convergent boundary. Okay, we also have the other example. Let me show you. It's not put in a sequence proper. No, it's not shared on this. Okay, I think this you can understand. In this diagram, you see Pacific Ocean. Pacific Ocean, this is the ocean part. The ocean crust hai, or ye continent hai. Collision happening, subduction going on here. In this one, this is the ocean part and this is the ocean part again. Ye OO collision. Ye bhi ocean part hai, ye bhi ocean part hai. This is ocean, this is the green blue color is, okay, is the ocean part. Okay, so ocean, this is ocean continent. यहाँ पर भी है ocean collision, and these are trenches. जहाँ पर भी collisions होगा, and the ocean flow goes and underneath is called as subduction. And any subduction, whether it is OO subduction or OC type of interaction, you'll have a trench. So we have the Aleutian Trench, the Japan Trench. I mentioned the Mariana Trench. यहाँ पर Tonga Trench. दिख रहा है all of you? यहाँ islands are called as Tonga, Kermadec Islands. So Tonga and Kermadec Trench is here. On this side, I mentioned Atacama or Peru, Chile Trench. We talked about Middle American Trench here, also called as the Mexican Trench. यहाँ पर Californian Trench, लिखा नहीं है, we have this here. So this is the Pacific Ring of Fire. Intense volcanoes, eruptions, tsunamis. हर साल होता रहा, it's continuous. Some active zones. This triangle here, this is called as the Kamchatka Peninsula. यहाँ पर खूब सारे earthquakes होते हैं. One of the ones was so powerful, they anticipated that this could create tsunamis as far as Hawaiian Islands here. They had a lot of alerts because it was a very powerful one. 8.5, 8.7 वाला यहाँ पर Richter scale वाला था यहाँ पर. वैसे Japanese Islands में along the coast, Japanese Islands यहाँ पर है. Along the coast you have got numerous earthquakes, and this can cause again tsunamis. ठीक है, the Pacific Ring of Fire, the collision boundaries of the ocean floor. Any questions on this, anybody? Yeah. More ka matlab, we're talking about the lengths. Okay. Yes, if you add up the length of trenches, is much more. But Pacific Ocean ka jo ridge hai, it is more active than the Atlantic Ocean ridge. Okay. But in the Pacific Ocean alone, yes, the subduction is more dominant than the MOR. That's why Pacific Ocean net effect is it is shrinking in size. तो यहाँ पर this is the MOR here, ऐसे MOR यहाँ पर. Okay, so MOR से लावा निकल रहा है, ये ऐसे फैल रहा है. ठीक है. Plus यहाँ पर the ocean is getting destroyed here. So creation यहाँ पर, destruction here. The net is the destruction is more than creation. The ocean is a kind of shrinking in size. Yes, but otherwise this MOR is more active than the Atlantic MOR. Mention the plates here. Siddharth, nahi, abhi hold karo. You will not decide what I will teach. Okay, Siddharth. See, I can understand your curiosity, and some of you have studied geomorphology, I am very sure. some of you know the basics, but अभी मुझे पढ़ाना है, oceanography पढ़ाना है. So I'll just need you to know some terms, recall, and then we move on. And we come to tectonics, we come to tectonics in detail. Priyanshu, what did you not understand? बताओ. एक क्वेश्चन पूछा, how Rift Valley formed? I said ignore that. Okay. और बताओ. I used one term, divergent boundary, sea floor spreading. और क्या जानना चाह रहे हो बताओ. What else, Priyanshu? Explain what? अभी explain नहीं. I'm getting you familiar with the names. Okay. 10-15 terms हैं. You know that. I use a term called accretionary prism, fold mountain. Just know the terms. This part of deduction of ocean. Bhagya, yes, the prism is formed for both, for OC and also for OO collision. Both will create. CC में create नहीं होता है. CC में there is compression. Priyanshu, your doubt is not clear, so I'll ignore your doubt. Okay. देखो अगर आपका doubt clear नहीं है ना, okay, then I can't handle. Okay, क्या issue है? अगर generic बोलोगे समझा दो, क्या समझाना है? Brown color है, blue color है, red है, सुंदर से लिखा है, अंग्रेजी में लिखा है. And I'm telling deliberately कि I'm not entering the mechanism right now. अब जितना भी मुझे गौर करो, पुश करो, I will not fall trap there. ठीक है? So mechanism part, hold on. The convenient terms are, I said one mechanism called subduction है, one mechanism called scraping है, something called as sea floor spreading है, something called as okay, tensile force, okay, and divergent boundaries. That's all. उसके बाकी details will come back afterwards. I can move on from here now. Okay, so you know the basic terms here. Then I was discussing what is the structure of the ocean floor in general. So structure of the ocean floor is say something like this. So we have a continent, we have the shelf. So this is the shelf, shallow part. The shelf exists up to the depth of कितना बताया मैंने 200 meter. Then you have a steep part called a slope, a transition part here, and then you have the massive abyssal plains. The word abyss means very deep. Okay, the depth of abyssal plains about 4,000 meters. Charts kilometer की बात कर रहे हैं from the surface of the water. And then we have the Moore system. This is a general diagram, not a typical one for any ocean. In general, shelf होता है, slope होता है, rise होता है, abyssal plains. There are Moore systems, some volcanoes accumulating here, and then we have this deep trench here. Okay, this is a kind of a simple representative diagram of ocean floor with its features. ठीक है? So I have shown this to you already, and इसी का एक और form is here. You can see again. The shelf is very shallow, gives a sense of scale. A shelf is very shallow. ये पूरा slope है, okay. And then you have a transition part यहाँ पर, and then ultimately you have the abyssal plains. Okay, so this यहाँ से यहाँ जो steep slope है, this is the continental slope. This is the transition part and the abyssal plains. So we have shown this as something like this. So you have the shelf, the slope, the transition, and then we have the abyssal plains. The abyssal plains, they make up, I said 75-80% of the ocean floor. Okay, rest is part of the shelf and the slope. But otherwise, if you talk about hardcore ocean crust abyssal plain ही है. Okay, यहाँ तक, if you look at the rock composition, all of this actually part of continent. Okay, I think I explained that yesterday, right? Okay, if you look at this part here, this actually is the continental rocks. ये पूरा continent वाला rocks है. Okay, so two things. The abyssal plains make up 75-80% of the ocean floor. But if you talk in terms of the rocks, the abyssal plains almost make up 100% of the ocean floor in terms of basalt rocks. Okay, when I say ocean basin, I mean there is a continent part of the basin and there is an oceanic crust part of the basin. अगर आप ocean crust की बात करोगे in terms of basalt, फिर तो abyssal plain ही है. because these parts are actually parts of the continents. So if you remember the diagram we had drawn, we said this is the continent, this is the continent like this, ये पूरा continent है ऐसे, and then we said यहाँ से this is the ocean floor, this is the water. So continental shelf, the slope, the transition called as the rise. Okay, so technically speaking, यहाँ तक continent, and this transition part is depositional part. Okay, and this is entire ocean basalt. I hope this part is clear, all of you. What I mean by ocean basin and what I mean by ocean crust, what I mean by ocean margins and what I mean by the abyssal plains. Is it okay? All of you done? Okay. And then I was detailing some features of the shelf. So, continental shelf. A shelf, 4-5 points. This is a shallow part. This is a depth of less than 200 meters. This is a very gentle slope, a slope of less than 1 degrees. The shelf is also the part of the photic zone. Okay. Shelf is very high in productivity. A lot of life forms, algae, nutrients, so very high productivity. This area has lot of fishing resources, plus this is where we have lot of oil and gas resources. And I made a small list of कहाँ पर oil gas है तो बहुत सारे, but I mentioned the Bombay High. Okay, some of you said Mumbai High, नहीं वो Bombay High ही है. Okay, so they forgot to rename. Okay, Bombay High is Mumbai High, but वो Bombay High बोलो उसको. Bombay High. We talked about the Persian Gulf, the Nigeria coast I may have mentioned. We talked about the Barents Sea. We talked about North Sea, the Gulf of Mexico. We talked about the Venezuela wala part. All of these are rich oil and gas resources. Okay? That's about the continental shelf. The basin are from ocean shelf to yes, correct, Rishabh. When I say ocean basin, I mean the entire depression, starting from shelf, including the slope, rise, and the. When I say ocean crust is mainly the abyssal plains where we have the basalt rocks. Correct. I can move on now. This was just revising what we discussed last class. Okay. So let's move on. So I'm done with the discussions on the continental shelf. करा दिया आपको. Let's move on towards the continental slope. Yes. Shoals are smaller. Banks are more wider and more extensive. Shoals are smaller. Shallow parts, and that's it. The elevations where the water is little shallow and more sunlight there, so they have got more biodiversity. Otherwise, it's more in terms of the size, the extent. Okay. So Grand Banks, Dodger Bank, Sable Bank, Peary Bank. Okay, we have George Bank. There are many of them, but the names I have given you are around the island of Newfoundland. Okay, it's part of Canada. Uske coast wala area jo hai, that has the North Sea has, we mentioned the Dodger Bank. Okay, both are important fishing zones. Acha, I forgot by the way. The shelf part, एक discussion था कि the shelf is more prominent when the margins are passive margins. Essentially, imagine this. This is the continent or the ocean. Okay? And or maybe if I bend my wrist here, imagine this as the shelf here, okay, and this is the ocean here. Okay? A passive margin. But अगर active होगा क्या होगा? This pushes against. Pushes against, good subject, push की वजह से this part it bends even more steeper. Can you all imagine here? Because it's compression going on. Okay. There no compression. This is passive margin. I have a proper shelf. I have a proper slope and I have the abyssal plains. You know, imagine here. But अगर compression हो रहा है, subduction हो रहा है, what happens is this one it tilts even more. So the shelf जो है वो इतना steep हो जाता है is as good as the slope itself. So wherever we have ocean floor subducting inside the mantle, wherever we have collision, OC collision boundaries, वहां पर I will not have a shelf. I'll have a continent, very sharp drop, and we have trench. Okay, so if you look at the diagram here, it's a continent. This is the slope. This is the shelf, the rise, and the abyssal plains. Okay, abyssal plains. ये continent हो गया. Okay, and this is the ocean floor. This is all of here. But when there is collision, ये collision हो रहा है, and this starts going down, then what happens is this gets modified. We have a continent directly the slope, and we have the ocean floor subducting here. So this is the water. यहाँ पर shelf है ही नहीं. Directly you have the slope, okay, and this gap becomes the trench. You have the abyssal plains. So wherever we have active margins, let's say the South American Pacific coast, the North American Pacific, जहाँ पर ऐसे interactions हैं, I will not have shelf there. Whereas Atlantic Ocean, the coast is all passive margins. The Atlantic Ocean coast of North America, of South America, of Africa, of Europe, ये सारे passive margins हैं. So passive margins will have very broad shelf. In Indian Ocean also, we have largely passive margins. That's why the shelf is pretty broad in parts of Atlantic and the Indian Ocean. Check all of you, all done? I hope one of you had a doubt and I clarified that. Check. Let's move on. So about the slope, so this is beyond 200 meters depth. Okay, the ocean floor has a very steep slope. The slope of this land is more than 10 degrees. Shelf is a slope of less than 1 degree. This has a slope of more than 10-11 degrees. Okay, and because ये बहुत steep है, it will have no sediments accumulation. It has no sediments accumulation. तो shelf is shallow, यहाँ पर sediments इकट्ठा हो जाता है. But slope is very steep. तो जो भी कुछ होगा, it will fall and accumulate here. Okay, the accumulation हो रहा है. This is the continental rise, but the slope is largely barren. It doesn't have sediments accumulating. Okay, but ये fact है that along the slope, sediments can fall as massive underwater landslides. Massive underwater landslides. तो slope में sediments accumulate नहीं हो रहा है, but along the slope sediments can keep falling down. Okay, so sediments are here, they get pushed at this edge. They accumulate and then fall down like a massive landslide. ये जो massive underwater landslides हैं, we call this as turbidity currents. The massive underwater landslides along the continental slope are called as turbidity, Turbidity, turbidity currents. They call as turbidity currents. Okay, so and they can create earthquakes. Very massive. They're responsible for underwater earthquakes. They call as turbidity currents. And these landslides, they are so powerful, they can erode the face of the slope also. Okay, so when the landslide is happening, इतना powerful होता है that it can erode, it can cut a deep valley type of feature. You know, imagine here. Okay, this is the shelf. This is the slope. और जब गिर रहा था, it has cut a deep valley here. Okay, this is called as submarine canyons. Submarine canyon. इसमें बहुत debates हैं. They are so deep and they are so vertical. Some people thought they are rift valleys. कि crack हो गया है. Others thought कि maybe the rivers have cut and eroded this. But the fact is, rivers cannot erode under the sea level. जो भी erosion होता है river का is up to sea level. So this is not because of river erosion. It is not even a tectonic rift valley. It is an erosional valley, okay, because of the turbidity currents, not water. So the shelves, ये currents हो गया, okay. These currents can scour. Scour का मतलब होता है dig out. Scour, erode. They can scour and form deep vertical valleys. These valleys are, remember, erosional valleys. ये rift valley नहीं है. They can form deep vertical valleys, erosional valleys, called as a submarine canyons. They're called as submarine canyons. Yes, Priyanshu, yes. Okay, the slope will not have sediments accumulation, but the slopes do have landslides and the deep vertical erosional valleys called as called as submarine canyons, underwater submarine canyons. So इसका अगर आप diagram देखेंगे, I think I showed that to you somewhere, ये वाला. This is the example of submarine canyon. Okay. अच्छा, इस submarine canyon में जो sediments, the currents, the sediments वो कहाँ से आते हैं? They come from the continents, and from the continents, which are the major agents that bring sediments? The rivers. So it's like यहाँ पर river है, okay. A river comes and dumps the sediments here, and the sediments keep on getting pushed, and sediment starts falling. So the alignment of the canyon जो है ना, alignment are along the river axis. There's a massive river Ganga. Okay, beyond Ganga you will have the Ganga submarine canyon. The massive river called as Indus. Okay, go further away, you have the Indus Canyon. We have the Congo Canyon. We have the Hudson Canyon. Okay, the canyons are aligned along the river, but it is not a river erosion. Okay, it is not the river water cutting the canyon. It is sediments brought by the river that create the canyons. Okay, so 2 lines on canyons लिख लो आप. That the submarine canyons are not rift valleys. They are not rift valleys, and they are not because of river erosion. They are not rift valleys, and they are not because of river erosion. Okay, the canyons are erosion by the sediments brought by the rivers. The erosion. The submarine canyons are because of erosion by the sediments brought by the rivers that form turbidity currents, that form turbidity currents. So most of the submarine canyons are aligned along the axis of rivers. Most of the submarine canyons are aligned along the axis of the canyons. Examples, examples. Hudson Canyon, axis of rivers, sorry. Yeah, axis of rivers. Not canyons, axis of rivers. Okay. Examples are Hudson River, Hudson Canyon. Or Congo River, Congo Canyon. Indus River, Indus Canyon. Congo Canyon, Indus Canyon, Amur Canyon. Amur is a long river of Asia that separates China and Russia, border बनता है, अमूर, AMUR, अमूर. गंगा कैनियन भी है, but Ganga Canyon is largely covered by deposits. Okay, but we do have a Ganga Canyon also. और imagine कि कितना deposits हो सकता है. Okay, the Ganga sediments are found as far as Andaman Nicobar Islands. This is not accumulation over a small period. ये accumulations हैं over millions of years. Okay, Ganga का evolution is almost 2 million years. उतने time में sediments आ रहा है, इकट्ठा हो रहा है. The same Ganga forms the massive northern plains of India. इसका width towards the west 400 किलोमीटर north south है. Okay, so that amount of sediments are so huge that they can cut the floor and they can spread as far, India के case में as far as even the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. ठीक है? So a small note on the shelf and what are the submarine canyons. Yes. अभी नहीं पढ़ना. We start tectonics to study that right now and it's fine. शेल्फ इरोड नहीं हो रहा ना, स्लोप इरोड हो रहा है. शेल्फ के ऊपर में सेडिमेंट्स हैं, वो सेडिमेंट्स पुश होकर जब गिर रहा है, ओके, तब वो इरोड कर रहा है. शेल्फ इज तो ऑलमोस्ट फ्लैट. सबइन कैनियन बनता है. हाँ, नहीं, शेल्फ में सेडिमेंट्स हैं. अब क्या मिस कर रहे हो? ये शेल्फ है और ये स्टीप है. ये सेडिमेंट्स यहां आ रहे हैं ना, रिवर्स आर ड्रॉपिंग. ये सेडिमेंट्स हैं यहां पर. जब इकट्ठा हो रहा है, ये पुश हो रहा है, ये पुश हो रहा है, ये पुश हो रहा है, यहां पर पाइल अप हुआ. इट विल फॉल डाउन. व्हाइल फॉलिंग डाउन इट स्टार्ट्स कटिंग द एज ऑफ द स्लोप. क्या मिस कर रहे हो? This is the shelf. This is the slope. अब क्या डाउट है? नहीं, this is hard rocks. Sediments मिट्टी है. When that sediments fall, they erode the slope. अब ये प्रॉब्लम है ना, आप अंग्रेजी में जा रहे हो. This लैंडस्लाइड का नाम है टर्बिडिटी करंट. आप ये वर्ड पे क्यों पकड़ के बैठ जा रहे हो? लुकिंग एट द इंग्लिश वर्ड टर्बिडिटी विच इज गंदा पानी. दिस इज अ करंट. ओके, दैट सेडिमेंट्स दे आर मूविंग लाइक ए करंट. इट इज नॉट सिंपली टर्बिडिटी. दिस इज नॉट अ सेडिमेंट विच इज सस्पेंडेड इन द वाटर. नहीं, दिस इज अ मैसिव. इसका नाम इज सेडिमेंट्स जो गिर रहा है. इस सेडिमेंट, इस लैंडस्लाइड का नाम है टर्बिडिटी करंट. Don't look at the word turbidity and say it is the dirty water. No. आप ये वर्ड क्यों छोड़ दे रहे हो? Currents are moving something, right? So this is a massive landslide. ऐसे मैं दिखाया आपको. The landslides are called as turbidity currents, and those landslides can scout. They can dig the surface of the steep slopes. Take all of you. Chalo, fine. So I was discussing where is that? ठीक है, I can add here. So that's about the slope, and next is the continental rise. अच्छा, एक point add करो that the seaward limit of the continental slope, the seaward limit of the continental slope is the edge of the continental crust. The seaward limit of the continental slope is the edge of the continental crust. हम कहना क्या चाह रहे हैं? Okay. This is the shelf, this is the slope. Okay, ये है continent, and somewhere here the ocean starts. Okay, and we have kept this as a transition belt. Okay, so this is all continental crust, and यहाँ से होता है ocean crust. So right up to the edge here, this is the shelf, this is the slope. So इस slope का जो seaward limit है, जहां तक ये slope है, यहां तक you have the continental crust. फिर एक transition zone है जहां पर you have got sediments accumulating, and this is part ocean, part called as continental rise. इसके बाद you will have the ocean crust. तो ocean basin में the continental crust exists up to the seaward limit of the continental slope. ठीक है? Okay, the next is the discussion on continental rise. Continental rise. So this is largely a transition zone. This is mostly sediments accumulation zone. Okay, this also has a gentle slope. Okay. This is a transition zone between the margins and the abyssal plains. It has sediments accumulation, and it has again gentle slope. यहाँ पर भी slope is less than 1 degree types. ठीक है? Importantly, again the rise is missing at active margins. The rise will be missing at the active margins. The active margin में क्या होगा? You have a trench there. So you have the continent. Okay, ये continent है. It plunges. Okay, and you have the ocean subduction going on here. ये आपका ट्रेंच बन गया ना यहाँ पर. जब ट्रेंच होगा, you don't have any accumulation here. Okay, so this is the water. Directly continent से यहाँ पर शायद mountain होगा. Directly you have the slope. Then you have a trench, and then you have the ocean abyssal plains. So active margins में ना shelf होता है और ना ही rise होता है. ठीक है? Active margins will have direct slope, and then the trench and the plains, okay, unlike what we have in the passive margins. The rise is missing at locations of active margins. Within bracket mention, these locations will have trenches rather than continental rise. These locations will have trenches rather than continental rise. No problem here? All fine? Okay. So that takes care of the ocean margins. Next we discuss the abyssal plains. The abyssal plains. So this is generally more than 3,000 of more than 4,000 meters depth from surface of the water. Abyssal plains, okay, beyond 3,000. Some books cite 2.8 something, 2.7 something. Some can write 3.7 something. Oh, that's not an exact number here, but it's the deepest part. This is relatively flatter. It is relatively flatter. This is more than 75-80% of the ocean floor. It's more than 75% to 80% of the ocean floor. Okay. The abyssal plains is the ocean crust itself. It is the ocean crust itself. Okay. And these plains, they can have a diversity of landforms, plus they can also have a great diversity of deposits. So it is flat, but doesn't mean it has no features. Flat hoga, but isme they can have mountains, you can have islands, we can have some basins, okay, plus they can sediments accumulating on the floor, okay, so they have a great diversity of landforms and they also have a great diversity of deposits. A very common deposit of the abyssal plains at great depth is a deposit called as red clay. Red clay. It is a dominant. If you look at the ocean abyssal plains, red clay is almost 30% of the ocean deposits. It's a reddish matter with lot of iron-based sediments, magnesium sediments. It's very fine, sticky when it is wet. Okay, so a very dominant deposit of the floor is something called as red clay. Red clay, and I said there's lot of landforms on this. Landforms mein the abyssal plains can have what's called as abyssal hills. Abyssal hills. We can have sea mounds. We can have one special type of landform called as geodes. G-U-Y-O-T-S. Abyssal hills. Okay, small elevation hills. Abyssal sea mounds. Sea mounds जब use करते हैं word, generally sea mounds have elevations of more than 1000 meters. उसका mounds बोलेंगे. And if they are high enough, they can accumulate as island also. Okay, so sea mounds. And we have geodes. Geodes are, you pronounce as geodes, G-U-Y-O-T-S. Geodes are flat-topped sea mounds. Geodes are flat-topped sea mounds. ये flat top कैसे होते हैं? They can be flat because of depositions. They can be flat because of erosion. अपने आप में theory है. So imagine this is the abyssal plain. I can have abyssal hills. I can have sea mounds. Some sea mounds are high enough and they can be above the water. They become islands. Okay, and we can also have a flat-topped sea mounds. We call this as geodes. These are sea mounds. ये भी है sea mounds, and these are isolated abyssal hills. They are isolated abyssal hills. And within bracket mention that most of these sea mounds and abyssal hills, most of these sea mounds and abyssal hills are volcanic in nature. Most of these sea mounts and abyssal hills are volcanic in their origin. Volcanic. मतलब कुछ local volcanic eruption है, lava बाहर आ रहा है and forms a hill. Some local eruption, lava coming out, and these volcanic eruptions, they are not linked to the subduction type of volcanoes. ये बहुत अलग volcanoes हैं. Yeah, so within bracket write down this point if you can, that these volcanoes, these volcanoes are referred to as hot spots. These volcanoes are referred to as hot spots. Yes. Red clay. Red clay is because of weathering of the basalt. Okay, yeah? No, it's not. No. Red clay is not ooze, it's inorganic. Ooze is organic, inorganic. Red clay आता कहाँ से? By the weathering of the basalt rocks. Basalt floor है, उसका जब weathering होता है, plus some organic matter may also be found with it. खासकर bones of marine organisms, fishes, whales, enamel. Teeth is one of the hardest part. Enamel बहुत hard होता है, वो आराम से टूटता है. उसका some of that gets crushed. Okay, but red clay majorly is inorganic, not from life forms. So weathering of basalt is the most likely origin of the red clay. Yes. No. Okay, O collisions will create fold mountains, not sea mounds. And O collision, वो sediments है, ये sediment नहीं है, ये volcanic accumulations. Okay, sediments is erosion, scraping, accumulation, ये वो नहीं है. Okay, most of these are volcanic origin. It's lava coming out. Of course, lava is basalt lava, वो अलग बात है. It's softer, but it is not sediments like the accretionary prism. ठीक है? So ये सारे terms ना be very careful because there is a technicality behind all of this, and ये geography में है. So if you study oceanography, there is some element of atmosphere involved. जब आप atmosphere पढ़ रहे होगे, some bit of oceans are involved because earth में the systems are not isolated. अगर आप पढ़ रहे हो geomorphology, there's some part of atmosphere involved there. Lot of landforms are the consequence of erosion by rivers, erosion by glaciers, वो link with climate है. तो ये linkages हैं geography में. Okay, so that's why I'm deliberately blocking the details of geomorphology here. But you must know some terms. What is basalt? What is granite? Which is an erosional landform? Which is a depositional landform? Which is a volcanic accumulation? उतना okay, याद रखेंगे. The last 4 or 5 points. Okay, so I'm repeating it for you. Okay, so I said these are deeps where the depth is more than 3,000, sometimes 4,000 meters from the surface water. These abyssal plains are relatively flatter, so compared to the differences in the shelf with shoals and banks, the abyssal plain is relatively more flatter. Okay, but ऐसा नहीं है कि it is featureless. Okay, flat है, but it also has, I said, landforms. It also has deposits, and this is the bulk of the ocean floor. 70, 75, 80% of the ocean floor is the abyssal plains, and it is the ocean crust itself. Unlike the shelf and the slope, which actually are the continental crust, the abyssal plains are the oceanic crust. ठीक है, निशांत? Yes, Hawaiian Islands are one type of sea mounds. ठीक है, okay, volcanic accumulation hotspots. Yes. Okay, ठीक. So I'm moving on from here. You have a sense of now एक concept दे देते हैं आपको. We don't need it, but you might as well at least know this. There's something called as सुन लो पहले. Something called as hypsographic curve. Okay. एक टाइप का graphical representation है. Okay, something called as hypsographic curve. ये curve है क्या? This curve tells us how much proportion of Earth's surface is at what elevations. I'm looking at the entire Earth's surface as one surface. अब बताओ how much of surface is at what height? How much of surface is above water? How much surface is below water? How much of surface is trenches? How much of surface is the shelf? The hypsographic curve is a way of depiction of the variations of the heights on the Earth's surface. And as Earth's surface, I mean both continents and the oceans. ठीक है? There are 2 lines लिखो आप. So hypsographic, HYPSO, hypsographic curve. Okay, it is a graphical representation of. It is a graphical representation of the proportion of the graphical representation of the proportion of the Earth's surface. The proportion of the Earth's surface at different elevations. At different elevations. It depicts the distribution of elevations. It depicts the distribution of elevations above and below the sea level. Depicts the distribution of the elevations above and below the sea level. ठीक है कि अगर आप पूरे अर्थ सरफेस को मैप कर देते हो, so we have continents, we have the ocean margins, okay, we have the abyssal plains, the moor systems and the trenches. अगर हम बोलें कि this is the elevations of the earth, so kitna percentage, and this is maybe the sea level, okay, so kitna percentage is above sea level, how much of this is the shelf, how much of this is the slope, how much of this is the plains and so on. It gives an idea about how the surface elevations are distributed. Right, next. This curve shows that the three-fourths of Earth's surface is ocean basins. Three-fourths of the Earth's surface is ocean basins. Right, next. The average height of continents is about 840 meters. Average height of continents is about 840 meters above sea level. 840 meters. The average depth of oceans. The average depth of the oceans is about 3,800 meters. Is about 3,800 meters. 3,800 meters. Okay. The deepest points are at around 11 to 12 kilometers from the sea level. 11 to 12 kilometers from the sea level. So we have this Mariana Trench. वहाँ पर we have the deepest. Okay. So 11-12 kilometers below the sea level. Next slide down. The continental shelf and the slopes. Shelf and the slopes make up 8% each. They make up 8% each of the ocean floors. 8% each of the ocean floors. Okay, so a shelf 8% approximately, a slope 8%, दोनों मिला के about 16%, and the rest is the abyssal plains, the trenches and the moor and the rest. ठीक है? So just one short paragraph. इसमें अपने आप में बहुत details हैं about what are these curves. We don't need so much. I just want कि अगर आपका कोई question आया on ocean bottom relief, it is these small discussions that elevate your answer. Okay, so ocean basin is the entire shelf, the slope, okay, the rise, the margins and everything. Okay, so when we use the word ocean floor, sometimes we refer to only the abyssal plains, or we're referring to the entire basin itself. So basin is less ambiguous, but ocean floor will be careful कि वो कहना क्या चाह रहा है. The ocean floor could mean the entire basin. In some discussions they mean only the ocean crust. Okay, so you just be aware in the context कैसे use किया गया है. Okay. हाँ. 8% of the ocean basin. If I look at the ocean part यहाँ पर, okay, ये 8% of the ocean, ये 8% of the ocean, and the rest is abyssal plains, moors, and the trenches. ठीक है? Anybody else here? So one short discussion. What is hypsographic curve? अच्छा. Next, we'll take up the details of each oceans. सबसे आसान topic है ये वाला. You just must know the names. Okay. So we have take a fresh page. Ocean bottom relief of Pacific Ocean. the ocean bottom relief of Pacific Ocean. My recommendation here is आप क्लास से पढ़ लो, पूरा नोट्स लिख लो, बट आंसर राइटिंग जब कर रहे होगे इस पे, यू फॉलो एनसीईआरटी. तो एनसीईआरटी के ज्यादा आप लिख नहीं पाओगे. Okay, is one nice column with some bit of enrichment, a bit of tectonics add करते हैं, good answer. Okay, the details I'm giving you more like a listing कि कहाँ पर क्या है, ठीक है, but the answer structure is best if you follow the NCERT का that one column of write-up. ठीक है, the ocean bottom relief of Pacific Ocean. Keep writing the points. Okay, the first point is this is the largest ocean. It is approximately a triangle. Triangle का जो apex है, it is the largest ocean. It is approximately triangular in shape. अगर जो apex triangle का है, this is sea called as the Bering Sea. The Bering Sea. Okay, and the base जो है is part of what's called as the Southern Oceans. Southern Oceans bordering Antarctica. Okay, they're approximately triangular in shape, largest one. The Pacific Ocean is the remnant of the ancient. It is remnant of the ancient ocean called as Panthalassa. Remnant of the ancient ocean called as Panthalassa. जैसे आपका एक पैंजिया हुआ करता था, which was a very old and super continent था, वैसे we had a super ocean. So earth में there was a massive continent and all around it was only oceans. That's called as the Panthalassa. So धीरे धीरे over time the Panthalassa shrunk and now it is the present day Pacific Ocean. The remnant of the Panthalassa Ocean. The Pacific Ocean is shrinking. It is shrinking because the subduction margins north में, east में and west में are more active. The Pacific Ocean is shrinking because the subduction margins in the north, in the east and west are more active than the Pacific Moor system. They're more active than the Pacific Moor system. ये मैंने कल बताया था, north में we have the Aleutian Trench, west में we have Japan Trench, Philippines Trench, Mariana Trench, Tonga Trench, east में है California, Middle America, we have the Peru, Chile Trench, ठीक है? So the trenches of north, east and west, they're more active than the Pacific Moor system. ठीक है? The next fact, online you please keep keeping pace with me, ठीक है? The next point, the northern and the western margins are OO collision margins. The northern and the western margins are the OO collision margins. Okay. और जहां पर भी OO collision margins होगा, you will have trenches. We will have volcanic. We'll have volcanic island arcs. These are special type of islands, also called as archipelagos. ये volcanic होंगे and these volcanic rocks are andesite rocks, not basalt. ये आप लिख लो आप प्लीज. The features क्या हैं? Wherever we have the O collisions हो रहा होगा, those locations will have trenches. समझ में आ रहा trench होगा? Okay. So imagine this is the continent part. This is an ocean sliver और ये एक और ocean का part subduction हो रहा है. Okay. So this is the continent, ये ocean part है and this two together is one plate. Okay. और ये अलग plate है. Collision हो रहा है तो this is O collision, this is O collision. This is the subduction happening. अगर subduction है तो trench पक्का होने वाला है. And this slab goes inside, it melts the lava comes out here and forms some volcanic accumulations here. Okay, so अगर ये water है, so I'll have an island, I will have trench, I'll have the open oceans. On this side, island, this is a ocean part, and then I have continents. अब इसको आप shelf मत बोल देना. Shelf is here. अगर आप shelf देखना चाह रहे हो, okay, this continent, यहां पर shelf ऐसे. This is the shelf part here. Okay, this is ocean floor. Remember, shelf is not ocean floor. याद आ रहा है? Shelf is what? Part of the continent's crust. Okay, so this is ocean floor, basalt. This also is basalt. Okay, so in O collisions, हमेशा एक trench होगा. You'll have an island here. Then you'll have an ocean part behind the island, and you have the ocean part in front. तो इस part को बोलते हैं back arc. Yes, it's called as back arc zone, and this is called as the fore arc zone. बनाओ diagram, all of you. In any O collisions, ठीक है? You'll have a trench, you'll have an island called as iron arcs. You call those islands as archipelagos, and उस archipelago के पीछे भी एक ocean का part होगा, और उसके सामने तो है ही ocean. Okay, this is called as the back. Island के back में, the back arc is called as the fore arc. नहीं, ये sea mount नहीं है, ये archipelago ही है. When I say sea mounts, I am talking about those ones on the abyssal plains. The abyssal plain trench के बाद इधर होगा, not on this side. Sea mounts are always basaltic अगर होगा volcanism. ये सब andesitic है. कौन सा? मैंने कहा ना archipelago है. छोटू सा ट्रायंगल. कौन सा छोटू सा? ये वाला? ये वाला? हाँ, ये तो आइलैंड है, इसको आर्किपेलागो तो बोल रहे हैं. This island is the archipelago. This is the archipelago. आपको एक दिख रहा है, but ये actually chain of islands है. I'll draw the next sketch. You'll understand that. हाँ, ये subduction हुआ, melt हुआ, लावा ऊपर आएगा. This is linked to this ocean floor subducting, and this ocean floor melts, it converts and comes out as andesite. Trenches is the part of fore arc. Abyssal plain is the flatter one. So trench को हम edge में रखो, if you want to say that. Technically वो abyssal plain नहीं है. It's a feature on the ocean floor. Abyssal plain is the flat one, which is a crust, which has depositions. Trench is not that. Trench the gap है ना. Is it okay all of you here? So I'm just showing the perspective one. Yes, Muskan. The archipelagos are different from the islands of the abyssal plains, correct? So, if I draw this sketch here, a small slab here, subduction here. So, imagine this is the stretch. ठीक है? So, when I say islands are formed ये पूरे stretch में ऐसे. It's a long chain of islands. Because the subduction ये पूरे इसमें हो रहा है ना. तो when I show it as a cross section, मैं सिर्फ दिखा रहा हूँ, सामने से दिखा रहा हूँ. देखिए, when I show a perspective diagram, I can show this is a long chain of islands. ठीक है? If you look from top, you have some islands here, you have some island here, you have this island here, you have small islands here. This, okay, this is the Japanese islands. This is what's called as Ryukyu Islands, part of Japan. This is Philippines Islands. This is called as Kuril Islands. ये पूरा जो है ये वही chain of islands है. And along the chain, okay, so ये trench, ये gap trench है ना यहाँ पर. So यहाँ पर भी, यहाँ भी trench है, यहाँ भी trench है, ये भी trench है, यहाँ भी trench है, इधर भी trenches. You go north here, यहाँ भी trenches हैं. I hope you can relate both the diagrams now. Okay, so Pacific Ocean. So ये back arc part था, ये वाला part back arc part है. Okay, ये diagram याद है आपको ये वाला? The back arc part. Back arc is part of the ocean floor. We have the island, we have trench, and then the open oceans. ये continent है. इसको इससे compare करो आप. Continent है. The back arc zone, islands, trenches, and then the open oceans. So this is the back arc zone. और यही back arc zone becomes the Sea of Japan. It becomes the East China Sea. It becomes the South China Sea. Okay, so back arc zone is like those marginal seas in parts of Western Pacific. Be patient. आप 2-3 बार सुनेंगे, मैप दिखाएंगे आपको. These are very elementary discussions. Okay, you just have to be patient and get used to the location, the terms, the technicalities of how, why. I'm holding back to some extent because that's geomorphology. Okay. We will enter that section later on. Online, is it okay, all of you? Are you all keeping pace with me? Yes? There's the reason why I'm making you draw these sketches. Otherwise, मेरे लिए बहुत आसान है. Like I just have to show the, ये बच्चों ये slide देखो, हाँ देख लिया सुंदर है, then you move on. अब बहुत fast होगा. I can finish the course in much lesser time. But till you draw these things, you not have a sense of location. कहाँ पर क्या है नहीं. और वही नाम आप बार बार सुनेंगे. Okay, so some names I scribbled assuming कि आपको पता होगा. Okay, but मुझे पता है कि नहीं पता है. So I am writing again an island group called as Kuril Islands. There is a group of island called as Japan Island. Japan का ही part है a group called as Ryukyu Islands. Okay, and we have the islands of Philippines. So Kuril Islands and ये जो triangle whatever this island projection है peninsula is called as what? It's called as the Kamchatka peninsula. ये काफी news में रहता है because of earthquakes, volcanism here and massive ones. And these Kuril Islands ये disputed है between Japan and Russia. Yes, okay, a bit of geopolitics here. ठीक है, disputed here. लड़ाई करना is not only India's characteristics. Okay, anybody can fight. So they fight on something here. हाँ बताओ doubts क्या है? All clear, all of you here? So Kuril Islands, Japanese Islands, Ryukyu Islands, Philippines. So I was discussing. Discussion was that there are trenches, there are island arcs called as archipelagos. और ये important है. These islands are andesite in nature. Okay, and these margins these are associated with back arc basins, which become the marginal seas of West Pacific. There are back arc basins that become the marginal seas, matlab seas on the margins. The back arc basins, they are marginal seas on the West Pacific margins or West Pacific side. और ये जो examples of the seas क्या है? So I mentioned some examples. सबसे north में जो है, it's called as Okhotsk Sea. Then we have Sea of Japan. We have East China Sea. We have the South China Sea. All of these are the back arc basins. Okay, because of archipelagos, further landward, they are back arc basins. Okhotsk Sea, the Sea of Japan, the East China Sea, and the South China Sea. Okay, and because यहाँ पर subduction हो रहा है, so you can add this point here. Oh, collision है. So I forgot to mention trenches हैं तो मतलब क्या? These are subduction margins. Subduction margins. Okay, or trenches. So what are the names of trenches? You keep jotting these points down. Trenches. So I have mentioned some names. North में जो है, we have Aleutian Trench. We have the Kurile Trench. जो island है उसी के साथ वही नाम है. The Kurile Trench. We have Japan Trench. Japan Trench का एक extension है called as Sioux Trench. TZU. Sioux Trench. This itself extends as Mariana Trench. And also what's called as the Philippines Trench. Okay. So Aleutian Trench, Kurile Trench, Japan Trench, Sioux Trench, Mariana and Philippines Trench. TZU. Some books cite TZU, some mention TSU. ठीक है, Sioux Trench, Mariana Trench, and the Philippines Trench. And now you know that this is all part of the active Pacific Ring of Fire. Earthquakes, volcanoes, and potential tsunamis. ये सारा trenches जो है, the east and the west and the north Pacific, they are part of the Pacific Ring of Fire. All done? So I have discussed the features of the north and the western margins. Okay. Now we discuss the features of the eastern Pacific. West Pacific हो गया, now East Pacific. East Pacific में, this is the OC collision margins. OC collision margins हैं. So this will have trenches again. Any subduction will have trench. And trenches, name बताया था मैंने आपको. We have the California Trench. We have the Mexican or Middle American Trench. American Trench. And the longer one is the Peru and Chile Trench. Trenches. OC margins हैं. So non-existent and a very narrow shelf and rise. Rise जो है, this is replaced by the trenches. Because these are active margins, those are non-existent, है ही नहीं almost, non-existent and अगर थोड़ा बहुत है भी तो very narrow shelves, and then you have almost non-existent rise because वहाँ trench है, sediments all get consumed inside that. So what we have is the East Pacific margins. The East Pacific margins they have almost no marginal seas. Unlike the West Pacific, where we have Okhotsk Sea of Japan, because back arc basin है ना, ये back arc basin नहीं यहाँ पर है नहीं. So this almost non-existent marginal seas है. It's a very straight coastline. Okay, you have trenches here, and followed by the fold mountains of the continental edge. यहाँ पर you have trenches, there are no marginal seas, no shelf, and you have the massive fold mountains along the edge of the continents. So on the western side, जो हमने पढ़ रहे थे, we had continent, we had the ocean slab, we have subducting slab, we have these volcanic eruption trenches. On the eastern side, we have continents, and directly we have subductions. ये trench है, and this is all sediments here. They become the massive fold mountains. This becomes the fold mountains here. Okay, so यहाँ पर you can also have volcanism, but the volcanism is not on the ocean side. The volcanism is on the continents. यहाँ पर है volcanism. ठीक है? In this case, the volcanism is on the ocean itself. But अगर ये margin लेके चलोगे, ये सारा earthquakes and volcanisms हैं, the part of the Ring of Fire. Okay, the East Pacific does not have marginal seas. It directly has these fold mountains along the edge of the continents. And I had a statement here. The East Pacific also is part of the Ring of Fire. Also part of the Ring of Fire. Andesite. We can have granites also, but ये बाहर आ रहा है, ये सारा andesite ही है. Is it okay, all of you? So that's how we have we do a sketch last time. This class में. Right, this one here. Okay, so we have trenches, Kuril Trench, Japan Trench, Sioux Trench, we have Mariana Trench, Philippines Trench, we have Tonga Trench. So this is the OO collision, okay, with islands and the marginal seas. On this side is OC collisions, which has no islands, but it has volcanisms along the edge of the continents. And this is the entire Ring of Fire. Okay? So I've discussed the ocean margins of the Pacific Ocean. Now we'll see the details of what we have inside the ocean. So back to your notes. Right. So that's so not this one. This one. So move on. Then we talk about the features of the Pacific Ocean abyssal plains. Now, fold mountains are made up of sediments. Okay, they can have volcanic rocks, but fold mountains are sediments. We use a term called as accretionary prism. Sajay, they can have volcanisms, and those volcanisms are again andesitic, but the fold mountain themselves are sediments called as the accretionary prism. Okay. Now features abyssal plains. So abyssal plains is the dominant part of the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific abyssal plains, these are the deepest of all the oceans, the deepest hai. The average depth of Pacific is more than 5,000 meters. It's a 4,7 something, so I'm rounding off that. The average depth of Pacific is more than 5,000. So a Pacific Ocean is the deepest ocean. Okay, deepest ocean. And the Pacific can be divided into Northwest Pacific, Northeast Pacific, Central Pacific and the Southern Pacific. Generally ये broad 4 part divide करते हैं. Northwest Pacific, Northeast Pacific, the Central Pacific and the Southern Pacific. जो Central Pacific है, this is the deepest part. The Central Pacific is deepest part, and the most shallow part is the Southern Pacific. अब Southern में भी दो part है, the Southwest and the Southeast part. Okay, the Southern Pacific is the shallower part, and खासकर the Southern Pacific on the western side, the Southwest Pacific है, that's more shallow because it has the more. The South Pacific is the shallow part, and South Pacific में भी the Southwest Pacific जो है, Southeast Pacific, which has the more. The Southeast Pacific is the more shallow part. It has the more system. It is more shallow because it has the more. It has the more system. ठीक है. अच्छा, ये जो Northwest and Northeast Pacific है, the division is a group of islands called as Emperor Seamount Chain. Next लिखो. The Northwest Pacific and the Northeast Pacific, these are divided by or segregated by the Emperor Sea Mount Chain, by Emperor Sea Mount Chain. ये जो islands हैं, the Sea Mount Chain, these are volcanic islands. Almost north-south. They are volcanic islands, and some of you might know this. These are the consequence of a hot spot activity. They are not like archipelago eruption. ये बहुत अलग eruptions हैं. Okay, the volcanic islands, they are associated with hot spot activities. Yes. देखा आपने all of you? Then write down the Northeast Pacific has fracture zones. The Northeast Pacific has fracture zones. Clarion fracture, we have Clipperton fracture, we have Mendocino fracture, we have Murray, or we have, but that's good enough. There are fracture zones, there are cracks on the ocean floor. Okay, they're not like what discussed transform. ये बहुत अलग fractures हैं. These are tensile fractures. खिंचा हुआ है. Clipperton, Clipperton, Clipperton. This fracture is near the Hawaiian Islands. The Clipperton fractures are near the Hawaiian Islands. Then we have Clarion, Clarion, Clarion fracture. Okay, we have Mendocino, Mendicino, Mendocino fracture and Murray fracture. These fractures are tensile cracks because of stretching. Imagine I have a sheet. आपने उस sheet को ऐसे खींचा है. फट सकता है बीच से, राइट? Okay, so it's something is stretching, the consequence of tensile stretching, and we have got fractures, cracks on the ocean floor. These cracks are not like your sea floor spreading cracks, nahi. They are not like trenches, okay? Very different, and we have them in the north. In fact, you know about polymetallic nodules, right? यहाँ पर सबसे पहले डिस्कवर हुआ था. Near Hawaiian Islands, the Clippertus, this zone of fracture, this is rich in polymetallic nodules, P and N. They discovered the nodules in this part, the Clipperton fracture zone. Challenger? No, much later. Much later.
These fractures are along which direction?
East-west. East-west. दिखाते हैं आपको. Polymetallic nodules. Polymetallic nodules. This is Pacific Ocean. So we have Aleutian Trench, Kurile Trench, Japan Kurile. We have Mariana, Kermadec, Tonga trenches. This is the Emperor Seamount chain. यहाँ पर. And this is North-West Pacific. ये पूरा है Northeast Pacific. And these are those fractures. ऐसे. ये fractures हैं. Because ये north जाके suppression हो रहा है. यहाँ से कुछ खींच रहा है. Okay, it's like a sheet we have here. Okay, and you are pulling this, and it's subducting north में. While pulling this, there are cracks on the ocean floor. Okay, these are those fracture zones. Okay, you need not draw all of them. Okay, इसमें एक और नाम लिखा है, Molokai fracture लिखा हुआ है, but ठीक है, just know this much. So this is the northern part, and this is the southern wala. Southern में southwest and southeast. Southeast has the Pacific ridge system यहाँ पर. अच्छा, ये displace हो गया. This are the trenches. ये fracture zones. Okay, and Kermadec Trench. So this is approximately the equator like this. Okay, so this is northwest, northeast Pacific. This is central basin ये वाला. This is southwest, and this is southeast. और यहाँ पर you have a ridge system. This water is a bit more shallow. Is it okay, all of you here? We have another diagram for this. Maybe you can see this one. पता चल रहा है कुछ नहीं? Yeah, some idea. You can see this dark lines as trenches. ये dark lines जो हैं, ये trenches हैं. Trenches. ये Mariana Trench है, Philippines Trench है, Japan Trench है, Kurile Trench है. This deep one is the Tonga Trench here. Okay, and ये जो दिख रहा lines, right? ये वाला, ये हैं fractures. Here are the fractures. Okay, and that's your equator. And this one, ये दिखाई दे रहा है, right? Okay, dinosaur skin type का, crocodile skin type का. This is the Moore system, the Atlantic Moore system. So all these diagrams हम आपको share कर देंगे, part of your post class notes. Okay, and you'll get used to this. धीरे-धीरे, gradually, you will know what the ocean looks like. ये वाला I said island arc है ना, बताया मैंने. Sorry, there's a mountain chain बताया मैंने. Island chain, Emperor Seamount chain. Yes, this island groups. ये island ऐसे होकर ऐसे है. This is Hawaiian Islands यहाँ पर. So these islands are called as the Emperor Seamount chain. और यहाँ पर एक island group है called as the Midway Islands. Battle of Midway of World Wars. Okay, that almost decisive war था American and Japanese ships का. Okay. So Midway Islands यहाँ पर हैं. These are the Emperor Seamount chain, and this is the Hawaiian Islands. Which trench? No, यहाँ पर कोई volcanism नहीं. It's just a crack, but sorry, no volcanic eruption as such. All fine? Yes. Yes. नहीं, ये बन रहा है कि क्या पूछना चाहे, दोबारा बोलो. हाँ, तो इसको हम फ्रैक्चर्स बोल रहे हैं, इसको हम ट्रांसफर फॉल्ट नहीं बोल रहे हैं. Okay, दोनों का मैकेनिज्म अलग होता है. Okay, this is because of the differential rate of spreading. Okay, तो ये है ट्रांसफॉर्म फॉल्ट, इसको हम बोलेंगे टेंसाइल फ्रैक्चर ही बोलेंगे. Because the ocean is moving northwards and subducting here, तो यहां पर खिंच रहा है. This is the ocean floor. ये नीचे ऐसे सबडक्शन हो रहा है. While pulling this, you can imagine that ocean plate है ये, very very heavy. Okay, so when you're pulling it here, some parts get stretched and they open up. Okay, part of the subduction का जो pull है, what's called as the slab pull force. Okay, so they open up. Try to hold back the geomorphology वाले questions right now. I know जो मना करेंगे ना, लाल बत्ती मत दबाना, आप वही दबाओगे. ठीक है, so hold back. टेक्टोनिक्स में हम घुसेंगे. Okay, but you just need to know what is where, that's all. And don't use any term of yours. These are technical words. Archipelagos are not same as island chains, Emperor Seamount. The ridge systems are not same as the fold mountains. The transform fault here is not same as the tensile cracks here. Okay, so these are shear cracks. ये है टेंसाइल स्ट्रेचिंग, ये अलग प्रोसेस है. यहाँ पर the slip is like this, ऐसे खींच रहा है, और यहाँ पर ये ऐसे फैल रहा है. The processes are different. Okay, so be alert, and by the time you finish off, you will know what these terms mean. I can move on, all of you. So I've discussed the margins, I discussed the trenches, the northwest and northeast. Now a small discussion on the Pacific Moor system. The south east side mein the Pacific Moor system. Okay, so write down, unlike other oceans, Atlantic and Indian Ocean, unlike other oceans, Atlantic and Indian Ocean, the Pacific Moor is not a central ridge. The Pacific Moor is not a central ridge. It is in the southeast. It is in the southeast. Okay. तो बाकी केस में कैसा है? The Moor systems are north south almost. यहाँ पर कैसा है? ये यहाँ पर ऐसे. It is in the southeast part. Okay. Right, next. The Pacific Moor is a very active Moor. Is a very active Moor. It pushes the Pacific Ocean northwestwards. It pushes the Pacific Ocean, or the Pacific plate rather, northwestwards. So यहाँ से क्या? यहाँ पर you'll have the push like this. ये ऐसे push होगा. Okay. So because this push, ये पूरा plate जो ये पूरा Pacific plate है, ये कैसे जा रहा होगा? Northwestwards. That's why you have got subduction here, you have got subduction here, you have got subduction here. Okay, it is pushing the whole thing northwestwards. Next slide down. Eastwards of the Pacific Moor, eastwards of the Pacific Moor are smaller plates. So देखो, in the Pacific Ocean, this whole thing is the Pacific plate. ये पूरा एक प्लेट है, सोचो आप. And this is the Eurasian plate. This is the American plate. यहां पर जो है ना, ये पैसिफिक प्लेट नहीं, यहां पर कुछ और प्लेट. यहां पर is one plate called as the Cocos plate. There is one plate here called as the Nazca plate. Okay, this blocks में the Pacific Ocean is not one single plate. The Pacific Ocean majorly is this big block called as the Pacific plate. ठीक है, फिर Pacific plate के ocean में ये part जो है, this is the part of the Eurasian plate. ठीक है, so and on this side I'm saying ये छोटे plates हैं. This is called as Cocos plate and this is called as Nazca, Nazca, Nazca plate. It's called as the Nazca plate. Okay, so there are smaller plates called, लिख लो नाम, Cocos plate. Cocos plate is along the Middle American side, and the Nazca plate is more along the South American side. The Nazca plate. So यहाँ पर जो subduction हो रहा है ना, यहाँ पर subduction is not of the Pacific Ocean, it is of the Nazca plate. It is of the Cocos plate. यहाँ पर subduction जो है, this is of the Pacific plate. Can you all imagine this properly? So if I transform this in a diagram, is something like this. आप imagine करो, all of you. अब समझ में आ रहा है ये वाला? So this is the Moor system. यहाँ पर पूरा Moor है. This is the Pacific plate, and these two blocks are Cocos plate, and this is the Nazca. और ये पूरा जो है, this is the Moor system. ये भी ridges है, small projections towards arms of the ridge है, but the ocean is something like this. All good? And just mention 2-3 facts. The Pacific Moor has just a small list. It has Easter rice. It has Galapagos rice. It has Albatross plateau. Massive elevation block है, it's called as the Albatross plateau. Okay, yes, you have Easter chili rice, Galapagos rice, ये arms है. So if this is the Moor system here, एक आर्म ऐसे चला जा रहा है, एक आर्म ऐसे जा रहा है, एक elevation part यहाँ पर है. Like the Easter rice, the Galapagos islands हैं towards the north, and we have the Albatross plateau. हाँ. ये डायग्राम को हम दिखा रहे थे. This is the main Pacific, and there are two blocks here. Okay, ये चीज को I'm showing it in a schematic. The main Pacific, and there are two blocks here. So the Pacific Ocean is not subducting here. The Pacific Ocean is not subducting here. The Nazca is subducting and the Cocos is subducting. ठीक है, यही चीज मैं यहां दिखाना चाह रहा हूं. All fine? Okay, so एक बार आप ये डायग्राम देखो. This is your diagram of Pacific OBR in your Savindra Singh textbook. Page 80, chapter 3 में है ये. Okay? तो यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा गलत दिखा है because it shows the ridge system going right up to the north. Okay? ऐसा नहीं है. It's ridge system is still here approximately, and then you have the fractures here. Okay? ये ridge system में you can see Chile rise, Easter rise, ऊपर जाकर Galapagos rise यहाँ पर है. This big stretch here, this is called as Albatross Plateau here. Okay, so southeast wala part is this one. Okay, so in this part, ये वाला discussion, ये diagram मत बनाना ये वाला. If you make it, just show this as the fractures. Okay, like this. तो अगर किताब है तो it's in page number 80. Page 80 has this, and I could show you on the NCERT, but you have not brought it, कोई बात नहीं, we can. I wanted to show this one. हाँ, आइलैंड उसी का एक्सटेंशन ही है, उसी का ही पार्ट है. In your NCERT, हाँ ये वाला दिखा. तो पेज नंबर, this book, Fundamentals of Physical Geography, and I am following the 2006 का edition. If you buy the 2024 या 25 वाला लास्ट जो है, उसमें काफी पेजेस डिफरेंट होंगे. So on the net ही मिल जाएगा आपको. Okay, you can just search through. Page 32 में there is this hypsographic curve. Okay, ज़्यादा कुछ लिखा नहीं है, but a sense of the curve is here. ठीक है, page number 32 in your NCERT, and you have page 33 में there is this ring of fire mentioned here. Ring of fire mentioned is here, and page number 34, 35. ये 34. This is the ridge system here, like this, and ये है Nazca plate, and this is the Cocos plate. दिख रहा है ये वाला दो plates here. Okay, and if you look at page 34 में, you can see the ridge systems, the subduction margins. You can see the transform faults. Page number 34. Don't read the details because the tectonics का chapter है. You might just look up the diagrams and have a sense of what where lies. Is it okay, all of you here? So this is the OBR, the ocean bottom relief of the Pacific Ocean. Yes. So we'll quickly look up some facts of the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, so S-shaped ocean. It's very active and has a central मोर सिस्टम. Atlantic Ocean जो है, it is spreading, unlike the Pacific Ocean जो छोटा हो रहा है. Atlantic Ocean active है with the active moor system, central moor system, and Atlantic Ocean is spreading, it's opening up, very active and has a central moor. It has central Atlantic moor system. Atlantic के जो margins हैं, the margins are passive margins. Unlike the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean has passive margins. So passive margin matlab kya hoga? There is no subduction, there is no trenches, there are no volcanism along the edge. So passive margins, there is no subduction, there are no volcanic features, these have no earthquakes, okay. They will have no trenches, there are no trenches. And one suggestion to all of you is, जब आप ocean लिख रहे हो ना, try, अगर मैं Atlantic पूछ भी रहा हूं ना, have some comparison while discussing the oceans. So like I say, unlike Pacific, which has active margins, Atlantic is passive. Unlike Pacific, which has a Moor system in southeast, Atlantic has a central Moor system. Unlike Pacific, which is shrinking, a remnant of Panthalassa and shrinking, Atlantic Ocean is relatively more new ocean, and it is expanding and again enlarging. Okay, this is one technique of showing that you know the concepts across the oceans. Okay, so this is one type of writing answer का skill है ये वाला. ठीक है, so therefore अगर ये है, so Atlantic Ocean will have very broad shelves. It will have a distinct continental slope and also continental rise. It has a very broad shelf, okay, and will have a distinct slope and also a rise. जो तीनों पार्ट है Atlantic में clear दिखता है, okay, and because it has a broad shelf, what does it mean? Broad shelf means it will have a good fishing resources, high productivity. It also means it has good amount of oil and gas. It will also have good amount of oil and gas resources. So African shelf, European shelf, South American shelf, North American shelf, ये सब shelf में आपका oil and gas है. Okay, so some examples of oil gas regions of Atlantic are Gulf of Mexico. We have the coasts of Venezuela, oil along the Gulf of Guinea. Gulf of Guinea कहाँ पर है? Anybody knows? This is the African coast along the coast of Nigeria. Gulf of Guinea. I've told you about North Sea and the British Petroleum, that region. Okay, these are all oil-rich regions. Okay, you also have Atlantic Ocean का ही extension है the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, उसमें भी oil gas है. Okay, along the shelves of Libya. I mean, Libya is a good example of resource curse. Okay, the northern part of Libya, जहाँ पर Tripoli है, Benghazi है. Okay, those are oil resources once colonized under the French. Okay, the Mediterranean Sea also has oil and gas resources. So broad shelf, and so there's the reason, there's a geopolitical angle when America says we will rename Gulf of Mexico as Gulf of America. Are you aware of this? Because some things are very outrageous, but बार बार बोलते रहोगे ना, okay, अभी नहीं होगा, 15, 20, 30 साल में कन्वर्ट हो जाएगा, right? And it is a symbolic way of telling the world कि ये पूरा मेरा ही है. Okay? And this is not simple territory, this is a territory with resources. और इसको डाउट हो रहा है, ठीक है, अब घुस गए हम वेनेजुएला में, स्टॉप कर लो, हमें करना है तो. We are in Panama, we are in Venezuela, और पोर्टो रिको हमारा बैकयार्ड वैसे भी है, क्यूबा को मानते नहीं है. Okay, and the Caribbean region is extensions of American, because ये resource regions हैं, oil है, gas है, fishing resources हैं, sulfur, huge amount of sulfur comes from the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, so there's a reason why it's such a area of contention of बन रहा है, extensions or projections of the American hegemony. Okay, so be aware of this. Okay, so a broad shelf on either side. Yes. पूछा नहीं है सो छोड़ देते हैं। टेक्निकली यस पढ़ना चाहिए, ओके, उसके लिए फिर आप आएंगे 12 महीने का कोर्स। कैन दे आस्क यस, हैव दे आस्क नो, ओके, कैन यू नो अ बिट मोर, यस यू कैन, बट ओनली आफ्टर द फाउंडेशन इज डन। हमेशा इट्स प्रायोरिटी वाइज के फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी क्या है, आई डू दिस, आई डू दिस, ये पार्ट पूछा नहीं है छोड़ते हैं, ये शायद पूछ सकता है एग्जाम के पहले कर लेंगे, अभी नहीं करेंगे, अभी आप बेस बना लो आप। यस, ये इकोनॉमिक ज्योग्राफी टॉक्स अबाउट द वर्ल्ड रिसोर्सेज, यस, ठीक है, द ब्रॉड शेल्फ हो गया आपका, मोर और लेस डन, ओके, एंड यू कैन हैव अ फ्यू लाइन्स ऑन, ओके, हाउ द ब्रॉड शेल्फ shelves, they support fishing. We talked about the Grand Banks, and we have talked about the Dodger Bank, the Grand Banks and the Dodger Banks. Okay, we have discussed this. Okay. Now, one remarkable aspect of Atlantic Ocean, जो बहुत different है from Pacific, I mentioned right now. The Atlantic Ocean में almost no trenches. दो छोटा trench है, 3 small trenches आते हैं. So Atlantic Ocean margins have almost no trenches, except for the 3 छोटे trench हैं. One is called as the Cayman Trench, one is called as Puerto Rico Trench, और एक called as South Sandwich Trench. The Cayman, C-A-Y-M, Cayman Islands on the Caribbean side. Cayman Trench, I think it's a British dependency. Cayman Trench, Puerto Rico Trench, not far away from Cuba, Puerto Rico Trench, and we have South Sandwich Trench. South Sandwich Trench. And they're very small, not really remarkable, okay, in terms of its size. Okay. And you can add one point here, that the Pacific Ocean is again different plates. ये एक प्लेट नहीं है, पैसिफिक ओशन भी एक प्लेट थोड़ी है. Though you know the Pacific Ocean का bigger part is the Pacific plate. First Pacific. So like Pacific का bigger plate क्या है? The Pacific plate, and the 2 smaller ones called as Nazca है, Cocos, others भी हैं, but these are smaller ones. Similarly, the Atlantic Ocean is also not one single plate. Okay, the Atlantic Ocean में dominance देखा जाएगा अगर, you can clearly see 4-5 plates. There's there's the American plate, North and South American plate. We have a part of African plate. We have a part of Eurasian plate, and we also have a pretty big one called as the Caribbean plate. अभी आप सुन रहे हो, right? अभी कोलंबिया में earthquake हुआ कल परसों. We had one bad one in Venezuela. All linked to those Caribbean plates के interactions. So I could show you this part here एक बार. So in your NCERT, page number 35. Okay. So this is the Atlantic Ocean. ठीक है? ये दिख रहा है all of you है? Atlantic Ocean. So इस Atlantic Ocean में बीच में mort system है यहाँ पर. So this is the North American plate. ये वाला part. This part of Atlantic is the part of the South American plate. ये African plate है. This part is part of the African plate. A plate can have an ocean part and also a continent part. ये पूरा एक block है. इस block में there is a continent part, there is an ocean part. Okay, this is one block, North American plate, which has continent and it has an ocean. Or north out, this is the Eurasian plate, which has Eurasian continent and also a part of the Atlantic Ocean. And इसके अलावा the Caribbean, दिखानी है boundary, this is the Caribbean plate here. ये वाला, and a very small plate यहाँ पर called as the Scotia plate. इस Scotia plate के margin में we have the South Sandwich Trench, and in the Caribbean plate में there is one small trench here called as Puerto Rico Trench, and one here called as the Cayman. Cayman Trench is a Western Caribbean Sea. The Cayman Islands, okay, all, I mean, if in your life उतने पैसे बन जाते हैं, Okay, so you can go to Cayman Islands. Okay, यहाँ पर you can make a money and go there. So all of our big stalwarts, Nirav, Modi, and the rest. Okay, so they all have their bungalows there. So see if you want to get one there. God forbid. So a small island in the part of Western Caribbean is यहाँ पर somewhere here is Cayman Island. CAY. It's a British dependency island, Cayman Islands. ठीक है, तो back to your notes. तो हम लिखा रहते हैं कि unlike or like the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean also is not one single plate. The Atlantic Ocean is not a single plate. It includes the oceanic parts of, North American, South American, oceanic parts of North American, South American, African and Eurasian plate. It also has minor plates like the Scotia plate, SCOTIA, Scotia plate. ये साउथ अटलांटिक में, ये स्कॉशिया प्लेट के मार्जिन में ही यू हैव द साउथ सैंडविच ट्रेंच. यहां पे आइलैंड्स भी हैं कॉल्ड एज साउथ सैंडविच आइलैंड्स. ओके, ट्रेंच एंड अदर वन इज द कैरिबियन प्लेट. द स्मॉलर माइनर प्लेट्स लाइक द स्कॉशिया प्लेट एंड द कैरिबियन प्लेट. अभिषेक पूरा पढ़ो. Why are you being selective? Crick Hub on the YouTube. Please get in touch with the office. They can talk to you. All fine, all of you. So we know the Pacific Ocean, the margins, the shelves, the trenches. We know the plates. ठीक है? Next head down, Atlantic Moor system. Okay, divergent boundary है. The Atlantic Moor is a divergent boundary and very prominent boundary. It is a spreading boundary, almost north-south alignment है. It is an S shape. North-south alignment. It is an S-shaped, okay, central spine. S-shaped central spine. So अगर ये Greenland है, यहाँ पर you have got Iceland. The Moor is something like this. Okay, there is another part. Is called as the Dolphin Ridge, and the southern part is called as Challenger Ridge. Okay, then north-south, the Dolphin Ridge and the Challenger Ridge, and they are separated by a gap है. It's actually a fracture zone. It's called as the Romanche fracture, almost along the equator here. The Dolphin Ridge and the Challenger Ridge and the Romanche fracture, and plus इसमें there are a lot of prominent transform faults. The Central Moor has prominent transform faults. I can give you 2-3 names of this. इसका orientation, location छोड़, just know the names. We have one called as oceanographic fracture. We have Atlantis fracture. We have a Vega fracture, a doldrums fracture. There's some names here. Okay, 3-4 of them is fine. So not Vega, Vema. It is a Vema fracture, Atlantis fracture, oceanographic fracture, doldrum fracture. Most of them are in North Valley fracture. And northern part, because of this volcanism, क्या है? This part of the extension, ये ऐसे extend होता है. This is an elevated part. Okay, इसका extension, northern part south of Iceland and Greenland. There's an elevated part here. Okay, this part is called as Telegraph Plateau and Y. Willie Thompson Ridge. Now, in the north, the Atlantic more extends. In the north, the Atlantic more extends towards Greenland and Iceland. It extends towards Greenland and Iceland. As Telegraph Plateau. And Y. Willie Thompson, W-Y-V-I-L-L-E, as Telegraph Plateau and Y. Willie Thompson Ridge. You know, when North America and Europe was developing their communications, they had telegraph lines, right? So lot of telegraph lines were laid on this plateau. तो यहाँ से line इसमें डालकर you take it towards Europe. That's how this is called as the telegraph plateau. It's a pretty broad part of northern Atlantic Ocean. कौन सा? ये ट्रांसफॉर्म फॉल्ट नहीं है, ये एलिवेटेड पार्ट. इसमें भी होंगे ट्रांसफॉर्म नो. ये ट्रांसफॉर्म फॉल्ट है ना, ये अक्रॉस रिज है, ये ट्रांसफॉर्म फॉल्ट है. डोंट गेट रेस्टलेस. आई नो आप घड़ी देख रहे हो, एंड जब घड़ी देखते हो आई गेट अ सैडिस्टिक प्लेजर इन टेलिंग की और 5 मिनट. Yeah, this one. You have a sense of the ridge here. Okay, so we have South America, North America, Africa. Along this gap, this is more or less the Romanche fracture zone. This is a ridge system with the transform faults. This is the island, Canadian island here, Greenland. So ये दिख रहा है, shallow part दिख रहा है ये वाला. This is that telegraph plateau. Telegraph plateau here. Okay, and then there are basins. Okay, we'll talk about basins separately. That's one diagram. This is a bit more. इसमें दिखाई दे रहा था. You can see this one extensions here. You can see something here. Yeah, this is that Romanche fracture zone. ये वाला part. ये सब नेट में है. All are using it. You can have a look. Google search it. Okay, and I'll share this with you on your post class notes also. ठीक है, all of you. चलो, that's for today. All of you who have your revision session, I'll join you at 3 o'clock. Make sure you revise the topics and you're joining. And tomorrow, yeah, please 1 minute. Tomorrow, I might start the class a bit late, around maybe 12:30. Okay, I'll confirm that for you. I have to attend to some work there. So आप क्लास आने के पहले आप टेलीग्राम में मैसेज देख के आना. Okay, how am I scheduling the class for tomorrow, Wednesday? ठीक है? Okay, चलो, bye bye all of you.